Hello, wonderful. Okay, thank you. Guys, final welcome. Good afternoon. Welcome to our webinar series, Adulting 101. Thank you all for joining us here today. My name is Robin Lee. I am the Connector Program Coordinator with the Cape Breton Partnership. We're excited, the partnership and the Connector Program, we're excited to partner with CBU alumni to offer this webinar series. One of the partnership's roles is to attract and retain talent for Cape Breton companies. So this is a terrific opportunity. This is a terrific opportunity to support new grads as they work to build careers here in Cape Breton. If you're a new grad and would like to grow your professional network, please reach out to me. The Connector Program introduces new graduates to industry leaders in their field. We work with more CBU alumni than with any other group. So we have a good handle on the value of your education, and we're so pleased to offer this networking program to you. And we're especially pleased to host this webinar series with CBU alumni. So before we get started, I'll just ask my colleague Jeremy to describe some of the functions of this platform for us.
Thank you, Robin Lee. Do you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Perfect. Thanks a lot for coming out today, everyone. Thank you very much to our panelists and our subject matter experts of the day for socially me. And as Robin Lee said, thank you to all the partners involved today. Today, we're using the Zoom platform for our webinar. If you have any questions as the presentations go on, just click on the Q&A tool at the bottom of the screen. You can type in your questions there. Our presenters will see them, and we will get to them at the end of the presentations, just so that we can keep the flow moving forward and keep energy high. We also have the chat function down below, so if you have any technical questions, anything's not working or something you want to let us know of, just type it in there and we'll see it and we'll try to get it dealt with as soon as possible. In the meantime, everyone have a great time, and Robin Lee, okay, take it away.
Awesome, thanks Jeremy. Okay, now I would like to introduce one of the fabulous organizers of this event. She's the annual giving specialist with CBU alumni, Rochelle Hatcher.
Hi, everyone. Sorry, I was muted for a moment. I want to give a little shout out to my coworker, Steve Horn. He is also one of the organizers. He's not going to be speaking today, but he is online and he is here to support everyone and welcome all of the CBU alumni and other registrants that are participating. Special thanks to Robin Lee and Jeremy and the great collaboration that we have with the partnership, and to our presenters, Tanya, Jill, and Stephanie. Everyone today is going to really like this presentation. It's going to be a lot of fun. So I'm just going to take a few moments and give you a few pieces of information about Cape Breton University alumni. So what is CBU alumni? CBU alumni is a family of more than 25,000 graduates worldwide.
Rochelle, would you like to share your presentation there as well?
Sure, I froze up for a moment, so I'm going to get it rolling now.
No
Sorry,
problem.
everyone. Here we go. Can everybody see it okay now, Jeremy?
Sure can.
Great, thanks. So our alumni are nurses, teachers, engineers, business owners. They're athletes. They're many more things. But most importantly, they are experts and they are leaders across the world. If you attended Cape Breton University for 1 year, left on good standing, you are part of our CBU alumni family. We're very proud to announce this, that in May, just 1 month ago, 1,400 CBU students graduated and became part of our alumni family. If you are not receiving information about CBU alumni and the great events, including webinars like this, please update your contact information. It just takes a minute or two at cbu.ca/alumni. And be sure to follow us on all of our social media platforms, including Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and we're now on LinkedIn and looking for more followers. So tag us in your posts and use the hashtag #AlwaysOrange. Back over to you, Robin Lee.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Rochelle. I love the CBU alumni family. I love being a friend of the community. It's a really fun and talented group. So on to our panelists. Our first panelist is a marketing professional and a proud CBU alumna. She is currently the project manager for the local marketing agency Anchored Ideas. She's also an entrepreneur in her own right and has 2 businesses, Home in the East, which is a knitwear business, and Cheap Shots Photo Booths, which is a really, really fun company. She has experience in social media marketing, project management, event management, graphic design, and web design. And she also has experience working with very disorganized people like me. So I'm going to turn it over to the wonderful Stephanie McLean.
Thanks, Robin Lee. Hi, everyone. Like Robin Lee said, my name is Stephanie. I'm the project manager with Anchored Ideas, a local marketing agency. And I just wanted to say I've been in your shoes as a recent grad looking for a job, and I've also been on the other end. So let me share my screen. Can you see it?
You can.
Okay.
We sure
Okay.
can.
Awesome. So in the past, recent grads have been told to lock up their social media accounts, keep posting to a minimum, and you don't want any of your future employers to see any of your social media. But in the past few years, at least in my opinion, this mindset has shifted in both employers and grads or job seekers. More and more employers that are hiring are looking to social media to see what their candidates are up to, what they're sharing, and if they can get to know them a little bit better before or after an interview. But don't let this scare you, and don't go delete everything off your social media right away. I'm going to share a few tips on what you should do to get your social media profiles ready and seen in the best light by employers. But first, I'll give a quick overview of each platform. So, LinkedIn. If you're looking for a job, you need to have LinkedIn. This is the go-to platform for hiring managers and recruiters. So make sure your information on this platform matches your resume and always post professional content. Twitter. Brands and people you engage with on Twitter can impact recruiters or hiring managers' perception of you. So follow relevant brands and companies you want to communicate with related to your job or industry. And Facebook and Instagram. So we know most of the personal content is posted here, but make sure it's G-rated. Like and follow brands and companies in your industry so you can stay up to date with trends. So my tips, I'm going to go over 6 tips, how you can use social media to your advantage when job seeking, and even as you continue on in your career. Okay, so tip number 1, Google yourself. Yep, just Google yourself. This will give you an idea of what anyone in the world can find out about you, including that company you just applied to. So remember to log out of social media accounts and try the incognito mode in Chrome, so it will give you the best overall picture. So use this as a starting base to figure out how you want to portray yourself on social media. And so if there's unprofessional photos of you that you wouldn't want anyone to see if you can remove them. And if there's not a lot of information about you, that can mean you need to create positive content about yourself. Which brings us to our second tip. Build your personal brand. So Career Builder did a survey a few years ago, finding that 70% of employers use social media to screen candidates before hiring. I have. So that was back in 2017. I am assuming the percentage has only gone up since then. So this can be seen as a negative, but can be also a huge positive. So this means that your resume isn't the only thing that only way for employers to find out who you are and how they can be convinced that you're the ideal candidate. So get creative. And if you're building your personal brand, it doesn't have to be just on social media. If you're a graphic designer or a web developer, create your own landing page with all your info and highlight items from your portfolio. Or if you're a business manager, share relevant and up-to-date social posts with information about your industry that you're interested in. And so if you're proud of your personal brand, make sure you give your social media handles and any URLs to the employer that you're applying to so they can look you up. And moving on to Tip number 3, have a professional online presence. So if you're building your personal brand, it's very important to remain professional. And that doesn't mean you have to be all stuffy, but just make sure you're presenting yourself in the best light that you feel comfortable with. And this tip is especially important on LinkedIn because it's usually where employers look first. So this could mean a professional looking profile picture and making sure your education and skills are all up to date. So as new grads, you might not have too much industry experience, but there are always ways you can impress employers. So sharing and posting industry trends and good news about that hiring company that you just applied to could work in your favor. Other social media posts to build your brand but remain professional could be supporting other businesses on the platform or others on the platform, posting thought-provoking questions that support your brand, anything that might be a continuation of your resume, or expressions of appreciation. So while researching for this webinar, I read a stat that said 33% of employers reported finding content posted by candidates that made them more desirable for the role, while nearly a quarter reported that social media posts directly led to candidates being hired. So regularly posting and sharing things relevant to your personal brand, but keeping it professional on LinkedIn shows employers that you're engaged and connected. But some employers also don't want to see just your LinkedIn profile, which leads me to my next point. Check your privacy settings. So it's safe to say at this point, we can assume no social media communication is private and anything we put on the internet is there forever. So if you don't feel like your Facebook profile is professional enough yet, there are privacy settings to engage that limit the amount of content friends and non-friends can see. These settings can work to some extent, but just be warned, there can always be ways around them. So my advice is to clean up your profile, make it professional looking enough, keep some of the privacy settings, but don't put it on a total lockdown. So myself, for example, on Facebook, anything that I'm tagged in, I have to review, so I approve it or deny it to make sure it goes on my profile. But remember, if you deny it, it's still out there. But one thing, employers might also want to see that you have a life outside of work. They might want to see that if you have friends or engage in your community or like to have fun. G-rated fun, of course. This can give them insight into if you might be a good fit for their team or their company culture. So don't go delete every post or picture you've ever taken or been tagged in, but just scrub your profile clean. Ask yourself, is this something I want public? Which leads to our next tip. Be smart and have common sense. So most people know that posting questionable or inappropriate content could be detrimental to a job search, or even if you already have a job. So, however, if you use social media professionally and to your advantage, showcasing your skills and expertise could propel your application to the top of the stack and land you a job. Try to look at your social media profiles through an external lens, even your personal ones. Think before you post, because there's always someone watching. So don't put anything online that you wouldn't want your parents, grandparents, old lady down the street to see. And bringing us to our 6th tip, be active and network. So employers looking at your social media want to see that you're keeping up to date with industry trends and current info. Posting regularly can show that you're engaged, but don't just post to post. Make sure it adds value to your personal brand. On LinkedIn or Twitter, contribute to conversations from connections or followers by commenting, asking questions, showing support. Those who put the work into their social media will get the most out of it. If you don't feel comfortable jumping right in, take some time to observe others who are doing it and take it slow. As well, social media can be a source of networking. Engaging with local people and having a presence in relevant spaces can potentially lead to opportunities down the road and help you make valuable connections. So who knows, maybe later on they recognize your name and remember your online conversation. Studies show that 70 to 80% of jobs never get posted online. Connector Program knows that. And that they're filled directly from personal referrals. So networking doesn't have to just stop because we can't go to events or meet people in person. Now more than ever, professional online connections are so prized and needed if you're going to be job seeking. Oh, I should. Anyway, so to wrap up, social media can really work to your advantage in your job search, and even after you've secured one. So use your profiles to stand in a positive way and showcase your personality, and you'll reap the rewards. It's an extremely strange time to be just graduated and looking for work, or just looking for a job in general. And at the best times, it's a scary process. So I know it can be tempting to sit and wait to see how this all plays out, but if you dig deep and get your head start online and on social media, you might be able to create your own opportunities. And that's it for me.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Stephanie. That was wonderful. I especially appreciate that I think you demystified some of social media for me. I'm always a little bit intimidated, so I really think that you made it accessible. So thank you so much for those points today. Also, it's so nice to see you. So our second panelist is a digital communication specialist at Cape Breton University, a freelance writer, and a firm believer in the art of the side hustle. Someone once told her that she argued too much on Twitter, so she decided to make a living out of it. So that would be Jill Ellsworth.
Hi, thanks so much, Robin Lee and Steph. You did such a great job. I'm so excited to be here. I'm just going to kind of chat while I get my screen shared, but this is so fun to be a part of, and I love that social media can actually be part of my career, so I feel pretty lucky. And here we go. Okay, so yes, as Robin Lee mentioned, my name is Jill Ellsworth, and I'm the digital communication specialist at Cape Breton University. Part of that role consists of co-managing the university's social media channels. And then on the side, here are some of the brands that I've worked for in the past or currently work for in a social media capacity. So Shreds Irons is actually a girls skateboarding program. SBC is a magazine out of Toronto. And then Rotary, Hospice, and Lumiere, of course, are some great organizations here in Cape Breton. So working in social media has actually given me a different perspective than I had as a social media user. So I'm excited to kind of share some tips and tricks from both sides of that. And this is kind of just what I've picked up along the way. Obviously, transitioning from student to professional on social media is something that you have to take into consideration. But as you're graduating, whether it's from high school, college, university, it's really exciting. So often social media is one of the last things on your mind. You're getting ready for the job search, you're getting ready for your next steps, whatever that may be. But this is actually the time that you need to be more cognizant of than ever of everything you're posting and everything you have posted in the past. So I want to start with kind of the best piece of advice I can offer, and it's something you've probably heard 100 times. Once you put something out there, you can't take it back. Screenshots take less than a second and last forever. So if there's one thing I want you to take from this webinar, that's what it is. So the question is, of course, how do you start that transition? First, as Stephanie mentioned, you have to know your brand. For me, I know the CBU brand, I know the Hospice brand, I know they're not the same brand. So understanding that is kind of understanding what these brands post on social to define themselves to that audience. So when you think about your personal brand, you have to keep kind of a similar mindset. So I present myself as a creative, a realist, someone who stands up for what they believe in. So sometimes my content is a little blunt, but it's not inappropriate. So as you transition to this new stage of your life, you kind of have to determine what your personal brand is. So it's good to consider what kind of industry you want to work in. If it's nonprofit, for example, maybe you want to highlight all of the volunteerism in your content. You want to present the person you want to be. So it might be different from who you were in high school or who you were in university, but we all change and grow, and your social media pages have to change and grow when you do. The first thing, of course, I'm going to say is clean up your content. We want to get rid of anything that's junk. So I recommend setting aside a day to kind of go through all of your social media platforms. Like Stephanie said, get rid of the stuff you're not proud of. We all posted dumb things when we were younger, but it doesn't mean we have to have them lingering on our present accounts for everyone to see with the search tool. So one way to do this on Twitter specifically is you can search your handle and a word or a term that you don't want to be associated with. So for PG sake, let's say my term is shut up, and I don't want to have any tweets that say shut up in them. So I search at Jill Ellsworth, shut up, and I can see every post I've ever written with that and delete them if I want to delete them. So as we mentioned before, doesn't mean they're gone forever, but it's a start. And you're also going to want to delete any unflattering, intoxicated perhaps, posts on social media, and old arguments, old posts that you just don't want to have around anymore. There are even softwares that can clean this up for you without actually deleting your accounts. I know for sure on Twitter there are sites where you can clear up to a certain year if you want to get a fresh start. Some people even make brand new accounts, but you don't need to take it to that level if you can just work with what you have already. It might seem obvious, but creating a list of things that you want to stay away from that's personal to you and then sticking to it can be super helpful. You obviously want to refrain from posting profanity, abusive, illegal, offensive content, negative opinions about your job or your coworkers. That's a huge one. Poor grammar, especially if you brag about it on your resume, and then anything that could make your employer look bad. For me, when I'm about to share something on social, here are the two things I genuinely think of. Will my grandmother be okay with this? Will my boss be okay with this? And those are two different audiences, but if I can justify that both of them will be okay with it, I'm good to go. So if you're about to post something and then you would be embarrassed or feel awkward if someone brought it up to you in person tomorrow, good sign you should not post it. Here's an example. So just, I'm sure you can see that, but Naomi was someone who earned herself an internship at NASA, got very excited and announced it on Twitter with some choice language. Homer Hickman saw her tweet and commented on the language that she chose. She snapped back. I'm not going to read it, but it starts with "suck my," so you can understand it's not going anywhere positive. So she doubled down and found out that Homer is on the National Space Council that oversees NASA. So although it wasn't Homer's direct decision, NASA representatives did see this interaction, and Naomi lost her internship because of it. So later, when Homer released his statement, he said that the reason he commented in the first place is because he knew that the reps at NASA would search their own name on social media, which a lot of companies track, see this, and that their policies would disapprove of her language. So he was actually just trying to kind of give her a little nudge without telling her directly to take it down. Instead of taking it down, she doubled down, and obviously it did not work in her favor. So it's kind of just a reminder to choose your words carefully, especially in moments of either excitement or anger, because we can be so quick to want to post something, whether it's super positive or we're feeling really passionate and really angry. You still have to take that second to stop and think about what you're about to share for everyone to see. And Naomi's just one example. Obviously, she's not the only person who has done this before. Recent examples, there are some healthcare workers who have lost their job actually because of videos they post on TikTok while on the job that just are inappropriate. So, sorry. So with that being said, it doesn't just apply to the lead up to a job. So for those people, they were well into their career, but you have to think, you have to still consider what you're posting even after you've landed the jobs. So most employers, they aren't going to actively try to silence you, but you have to have some common sense and respect for your position before you post. A huge question that people ask are to friend or not to friend, I guess, can I have my boss on social media? It's a tricky question, and I'm not going to lie to you because I have my boss and my manager on all social media platforms, and we exchange memes and silly posts all the time. So I can't sit here and say, don't add your boss. I think it totally depends on your unique situation. For me, I consider my bosses friends, and those relationships developed over time. I didn't flip them a Facebook invitation the day I got the job. So there are also plenty of former bosses I have that I wouldn't add on social media. So it completely is up to you to determine those relationships. Some advice I would say is if you're nervous, you can wait for them to make the first move, or kind of check it out with your coworkers. Do they have the boss on social media? Is that kind of a company culture? At CBU, a lot of our employees are good friends outside of the university, so it's not unusual to have your coworkers on Facebook or Instagram. I think if it comes down to it and you want to just ask, you can ask a coworker, a friend. You can ask your boss yourself if you're in a position that you think that's comfortable. Is this something that's normal for this workplace culture, or is it kind of not really cool? I think it's important to know that even if the decision is made that it's okay, there are risks to having your boss on social media. It can blur boundaries, result in oversharing or cause them to have a different view of you. But if you're already being cautious about what you post on social media, it shouldn't be an issue for you. The safe zone, like Steph highlighted, is LinkedIn. You can always add your colleagues and your boss on LinkedIn. It's a professional development site, and those connections are exactly what it was designed for. And it's the perfect place to engage with colleagues online without concern of things getting too personal. The similar question, can you reach out to someone who's interviewed you? So this one's a little different. If I was on a hiring committee and someone added me on Facebook right after I interviewed them, it'd be super uncomfortable. Some people even warn that connecting on LinkedIn right after any interview can seem a little presumptuous and make them uncomfortable about the whole situation. So I think the best thing you can do is send a professional thank you email and then wait for further contact from them instead. So you can just write a thoughtful message that shares your enthusiasm for the job, thanks the interviewer for their time, and especially if you can highlight on something specific from the conversation, say, the 2020 strategy was so interesting to hear about. It shows that you were actively listening and have a genuine interest in the role. So, like, to wrap this up, this is pretty much a photo that you can keep in mind relating to social. I promise you, if your accounts are public, employers, schools, everyone is watching. I creep everyone on social media. If you have ever applied for a job in an organization I'm involved with, I probably know your sister's neighbor's dog's name, and I'm not the only one. If it's right for you, you can consider private accounts. Steph gave tons of great tips about the ways to go about that without completely locking them down and making you look like you're anonymous. As a writer, I like to keep my accounts open for several reasons, but because I know my brand and I stand by what I say, I don't have to worry about it. The main thing I think is if you've landed a job, don't complain about it. I know it's hard sometimes, but you have friends, you can write your thoughts down. It does not look good to complain about your job online. You're totally entitled to your opinions, but sometimes a public social media account isn't the best place for them, especially if they run contrary to the brand or the organization that you're working for or trying to work for. There's no rule book to properly use social media, but I hope by keeping both of our tips in mind, you'll be in the right place to avoid any NASA level scandals in your future, and you can enjoy what the platforms have to offer without taking things too far. That's all for me, and thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Jill. That was terrific. I especially like the rule of thumb. Would my grandma approve of this? Would my boss approve of this? I think it's so simple and so useful. So thank you a lot. That was really terrific. So now, moving right along, we're going on to our final panelist. Our final panelist is a director of people support at the Sydney Call Center and has worked in the telecommunications industry for 17 years. She loves all things social media and is jokingly referred to as the resident CSI at work for her keen online investigative skills, which is just really cool. And so I'm happy to introduce Tanya Wilneff.
Hi. Hi, thanks so much. And I'm here today to talk to you about the employer's perspective on social media and with regards to recruiting. So I'm going to talk a little bit about our recruitment process and how social media ties into that as well. So I'm the Director of People Support at the Sydney Call Center, and I'm going to do my little share screen here, so bear with me, please. It worked, hooray. Okay, so the Sydney Call Center, I'll just tell you a little bit about it. And we've been around since January of 2019. So we're just about a year and a half into this business. We are a call center and we specialize in inbound and outbound calling for a variety of well-known clients. And we are always continuing to grow and build our business. And usually at any given time, we normally have about 500 people employed with us. So we do have quite a large workforce. So for people looking for employment, you know, our recruitment process, it's pretty similar and standard, you know, to most businesses. And there's really, you know, some different steps that are consistent there. So the first thing, you know, that what really starts, I guess, the recruitment process is your resume. So here's just a little bit about what we're kind of looking for when we look at people's resumes and when we do interviews and the whole process. And then I'll kind of get into the social media aspect of it. So the first step is your resume. And some things that we're really looking for on a resume, really, if you keep in mind, it's really your first chance to make a good impression on a potential employer. So, you know, the old saying, you never get a second chance to make a first impression. Well, it's really true. So it all starts with your resume, and it really says a lot about you. So a lot of things that we look for, I guess the main things would be, you know, we're looking at tenure at your previous job. Do you have a stable work history? Have you had, you know, a lot of jobs? A lot of short-term jobs? Have you had 10 jobs in the last 5 years that you've only, you know, been at them for 3 months at a time, which would coincide with a probationary period with most employers? Do you have skills that are relevant to the job that you're actually applying for? So those are some of the things that we're looking for on a resume, as well as good grammar, punctuation, spell check is important if you're applying for a customer service position. A lot of times spell check will correct it to customer service. So we're really looking for attention to detail and really your job history on a resume. So if we proceed past the resume, if it makes it through, then we want to talk to you. So we would be doing a pre-screen, and this is really your second impression that you're getting to make with us. And we're calling you up on the phone to find out a little bit more about you, to listen to your communication skills and see how you communicate with others, especially over the phone for a work environment like I'm in. And we're always looking for people that have energy, enthusiasm, great communication skills, and are you showing a genuine interest in the position? So if you're being called for a phone screen and, you know, somebody's asking you questions and your answer is yep, 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 you know, we're really looking at that, and it shows a lack of interest in the job that you're applying for. So, you know, we can teach people skills, product service, product information, customer service skills, selling skills, but you really can't teach someone personality. So that's really important. So next would be, the next step would be the actual interview. So here's where you really get to shine. So it's important to be on time, be a little bit early, but don't be really early. Don't be 2 hours early. Don't be 45 minutes early. Be a little early. Communicate well during your interview and really try and present yourself in a professional manner. You know, be well dressed, dress professionally. And a lot of times in the interview process, sometimes people feel like, you know, what does the employer want to hear? What's the right answer? What's the wrong answer? And a lot of times as well, just having an answer is important, because sometimes, you know, especially a student, you may not have a lot of job experience. So you're being asked questions and you don't really have a lot of work experience to pull from. It's fine to pull from your study experience. You know, when talking about group projects and things like that can be very helpful and give an employer an idea if you work well as part of a team. So there's a lot of things that you can use, that you can pull from university and different things that you've done there as well that can be helpful if you don't have a lot of work experience. So how does social media tie into all of this? So social media, as we've already mentioned, we're looking. And if you think we aren't looking, we are looking. So, you know, social media posts, they're not alone gonna make or break most times, whether or not you do get a position or get a job. However, as Stephanie mentioned, 70% of all employers are checking people's social media activity to see what's there, and which that's probably higher now as well. So really, social media gives us a real good insight as to who you really are. Your resume, your phone screen, your interview, that says one thing. Social media is helpful too to get an idea of, you know, who you really are as an all-over person, what your interests are, what your likes and dislikes are. So really, it's a way that we can help really determine sometimes your integrity, your honesty, and if you have good judgment too. It's very, very important. So for instance, if I was looking at somebody's social media account, I'd be looking to see what kind of posts they have, if they're positive, you know, what their interests are. Also too, what's the negative there? You know, does somebody have a lot of conflict? Are they back and forth in a lot of conflict with other people on their profile, or maybe they're in chat groups or online forum groups that they're on a lot and very active in. So we would look at, you know, the kind of posts that they're posting there as well as on their own page. Is there a lot of conflict? Also too, from a Facebook page or Indeed or other social media platforms, are there jobs there that are not listed on a resume? So maybe you have several jobs on your Facebook page, but they're not on your resume. So that would kind of be a little bit of a red flag for us as to why didn't you include those positions on your resume? So there's a lot of good information that we can get from social media. And it's really important to keep in mind that, you know, it is a public forum. And even though you could have your privacy settings restricted, everybody always knows someone. So, you know, even though something's not publicly visible, it's still possible that it could go back to a potential employer if, you know, you make negative remarks about a company, or if you just have a lot of negative posts and things on your Facebook. A lot of, you know, if you had profanity on your Facebook profile or share a lot of things like that, then that could be a potential concern to an employer as well. We do realize, though, everyone has a life, and everyone likes to enjoy themselves. But it, you know, just keep in mind that you know, if your Facebook or your Instagram feed is always maybe a constant flow of, you know, partying and things like that, then that could be, you know, could influence an employer as to whether you are reliable and can be counted on, you know, to show up for work. So just some things to keep in mind there regarding social media. Also too, so, you know, once you go through the interview process, the hiring process, you have a job, everything's great. Yeah, employers are still looking. So we're still looking to see what you're up to, not to spy on you. But, you know, sometimes the opinion is, hey, it's my Facebook page. I can post whatever I want. I have my privacy settings restricted so nobody can see it. But most employers have social media and confidentiality policies. So it's really important as an employee to take the time and read them and understand so that you know what's acceptable to post online and what's not acceptable, to save yourself some headaches and things in the long run. So, you know, a few things that would be important. Can I post on social media during working hours? It really depends on the job that you have. In my environment, we don't allow people to post during work hours on social media. We have a lot of things that are considered highly confidential that we don't want people to share or even accidentally share. Am I allowed to post about my job or workplace? It really depends on the employer. A lot of times there's a lot of things that are confidential. You don't want to be posting customers' information. You may have clients or selling methods that you're not allowed to post online. However, there may be some things that are acceptable to post online if your employer has an employee referral program that you're trying to get other people to join you at your place of employment, that would be acceptable. If there's special events, fun events happening, most employers like that you post things like that. But when it comes to confidential information, it's very important to not be posting anything of that nature on social media. Same would be for photos at work. In our environment, particularly, we don't allow photos in certain areas of the building, and certain areas are fine. So it's good to know what the policy is, where you're allowed to take photos, where you're allowed to use your cell phone, just to save you some trouble in the long run there. And so can my off hours posts negatively impact my employment? So the answer is yes, absolutely. Absolutely they can. It's important to always be aware of who's looking at your profile. If you have your boss and coworkers on there, and it is the rule of thumb that we already spoke about earlier, that if you wouldn't want your boss seeing what you're posting, then you may not want to post it. Or if you're a manager or supervisor, if you have people directly reporting to you, then if you have them on your social media accounts, you may want to kind of stop and think for a minute. Are you setting a good example for them, the people that look up to you and that you're dealing with day in and day out? So you always want to keep that in your mind about your boss and anybody that would be reporting to you as well. You always want to set a good example for them. Also too, if don't post on your social media that you're not feeling well, or call in and then share pictures of yourself at the beach. So things like that can really get you into a lot of trouble. We do realize people have a life, and that's not a problem. But when you get into things that you're posting, it's always good to keep in mind that all of these platforms are a public forum and anyone can view them at any time. So that would be, I guess, my best advice for you with regards to social media in the workplace and out of the workplace, to always keep in mind that it's out there forever. Even if your privacy settings are restricted, it's still a public forum that people could review, whether it be your current employer or a potential new employer. So it's very good to be cautious and really stop for a moment. And as somebody mentioned, sometimes you can get heated or upset and maybe want to post something in the heat of the moment. It's always really good to take a step back and just think about who your audience is and who your potential audience is for anything that you're going to post. So that would be my advice for you from the employer's perspective.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Tanya. I really think that getting the employer's perspective, learning to think about what their priorities are, what they're looking for, is one of the most powerful things that students or new graduates can do when they're joining the workforce. So I'm really glad that you had so much to offer and so much insight to share. And I just want to say to the Alumni Association, what a great panel. Diverse views, great input, just wonderful. Thank you so much. So now, guys, this is a Q&A portion, question and answer time. So you have Jeremy, did you need to say something? No? You have a Q&A button on your screen where you can just type in your questions. And so if at any time when our panelists were speaking, you thought, oh, I wonder, I'd like to hear more about that, just type it on in and we'll do our best to bring it to the panel. I'm going to start us off with a question that I've been thinking about since Stephanie's presentation. So I think I'll offer it to the whole panel, but maybe we'll start with Stephanie and then go through Stephanie, Jill, Tanya, Rochelle, you can pop in if you want. Steph, I really liked your optimism when you said, just because we're in a pandemic and we're not really gathering right now doesn't mean we can't be networking. Networking online might be the way that you create an opportunity for yourself. I've seen some people have confusion over how to use which social media platform how in order to professionally network. So I'm wondering if you could say a few, maybe give us a few pointers on how to network online.
Okay, yeah. So if you're going to professionally network online, you're going to be wanting to use LinkedIn, not Instagram, not Facebook. Those are too personal and it would just be weird. So on LinkedIn, if you don't have a LinkedIn profile, make your profile and then make it professional, add all your skills, expertise, and your picture, and then you can start adding connections. So LinkedIn will give you some suggested connections, and then you can always find people if you know them in real life and then connect with them that way. So with these connections, what I would suggest is if they're posting things on their timeline, on their feed, comment, like, share your own engaging content. So maybe they'll comment and like your stuff. LinkedIn already does a good job of telling you when people are having like job anniversaries or anything like that. So commenting on that, saying congratulations or anything like that. There's also the opportunity to join groups on LinkedIn. So I believe CDU Alumni might have a LinkedIn group, so you can engage and connect with people in there, and then just keep building those connections. But you're not gonna, as soon as you make a connection, you're not gonna wanna message them and ask them if they're hiring or whatever, because you wouldn't do that in real life. So networking is all just about building that connection, and you don't wanna spam people. So, yeah.
Right. That makes so much sense. Build you out your own content, reply to other people's content, just comment on anniversaries, don't do things that are too much at once.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you. Jill, did you have anything you wanted to add to that?
Sure, yeah, Stephanie covered pretty much all of it, but the only thing I would add is that you're already making the right steps by attending events like this and other events put on. You've just met all of us. You can reach out to me anytime if you have questions about social media. So by joining things like this, you're exposing yourself to people you may not have heard speak before, and you're making those connections. And then the only other thing I would add is that, of course, this is a focus on social media, but don't forget old-fashioned email. It can work. Shoot somebody an email. A lot of people have more free time now than they would, so they might be more inclined to mentor you, give you some advice, that sort of thing. So yeah, that would be my advice.
Oh, it's great advice. Thank you so much, Jill. Tanya, did you want to add anything about networking online through social media?
I think this really is a great opportunity with so many people kind of in down mode now with what's going on. It's a perfect time, although people aren't out in the community interacting at social events, it's still really a great time that you could join different groups, attend things like this, and just connect with people. Like there's so many online resources and little groups that you could join. You don't even know, you might have a special interest, be it knitting or something, and you could join a group that, you know, there's a potential, you don't know who's in that group. There could be a potential employer or somebody that you could network with, you know, so there's a lot of opportunities out there if you really kind of think about it and look for them. There's tons, especially while everybody's kind of quarantined in their little bubble. Lots of online opportunities to interact and connect with people.
Oh, Tanya, you're warming my heart. That was perfect. That's so great. Thank you. And I guess a great point to reiterate is join the alumni group on LinkedIn and on Facebook. Get on there.
Absolutely.
Right, Rochelle?
That's right. We actually have an alumni group on LinkedIn that we're encouraging people to move over. We started a page. So there's lots of people in our group. There seems to be more activity on our page. And that's where we'll share posts from the Cape Breton Partnership or some of our alumni-owned businesses and some of our alumni friends who are posting jobs. A lot of times we like to share it there on LinkedIn just to let everyone know. So it's a great spot to hop on and see what's happening in the business world for sure.
Awesome. So great. So all of you can get started there. So we have a question in our Q&A. Great job. And I hope that more of you type in some answers, or some questions rather. So for our panel, Caitlin McPherson saying that she doesn't typically post or share a lot of content on social media. Should she be posting on a regular basis? So that's question one. And then our other question is there such a thing as too much content? So maybe Jill, did you want to start with that one, just to mix it up?
Sure, yeah. So I think in this case, it matters less when you're working with your personal brand than it would if you were running social media for an organization where you have a content calendar, you need to post every day. I don't think you need to worry about posting every day on your personal Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. If you're about to go on an interview spree and you want to really highlight a certain aspect of your life, maybe you're going to throw a couple extra posts there about how you were involved in co-op, Caitlin, or how you volunteered here, highlight those sort of things, kind of strategically. But no, I don't think you have to post 5 times a week or whatever. And I don't think there's so much as too much content in the same light when you're on your personal, unless you're flooding with, inappropriate or kind of not the greatest content. But if you're just, posting your nieces and nephews every day on Facebook, it shouldn't affect your job search or anything like that.
Thank you. Tanya, did you have anything you wanted to add to that?
Yeah, I think sometimes there could be a little too much no content on there, inactivity. Because sometimes if I was looking at somebody's social media and maybe the last time they posted was 2016, I might think, okay, where have you been for the last few years? Why you haven't been interacting with anyone? So that would be something that I would definitely that would pique my curiosity if somebody wasn't active on social media, because everybody's on it these days. And also too, maybe, are they up on, if we're looking at a job that requires somebody to have smartphone knowledge, would that person, they're never on social media, they're never engaging in any sort of technical way, are they up on all the latest things? And are they tech savvy, I guess would be the best way to describe it. So, you don't need to post 5 times a day, but it is good that you do have posts on a consistent basis, I guess, to show people that you're alive and that there is some interaction there, because that would be kind of like a little bit of, I guess not a big red flag, but a little one. If somebody hasn't been active anywhere, we kind of wonder, okay, where have you been for the last 2 or 3 or 4 years?
Right. So that's a great employer perspective. And I think we can work Jill's point in where if you haven't been active and you're going to start looking for jobs, might be nice to start highlighting some of your accomplishments or your interests just before you go out interviewing. Thank you. And Steph, did you have anything you wanted to add?
No, I think Jill and Tanya pretty much covered everything there. I could add, posting content on a regular basis. Just post what you're comfortable with. You don't ever want to feel stressed out by social media, so just post what you're comfortable with and what you can handle.
That's it. Yeah, that's a great one. That works professionally and personally. So thank you, guys. This is all really great input. So Rochelle, someone asked if we could share the alumni, so maybe we can type that in so they can join. And then Jeremy, I think maybe now would be a great time to do the survey. I don't know if I'm going to be able to explain it well. So we have a short evaluation survey on your screen. I think Jeremy, you're going to share it. Awesome. Oh, so easy. Okay, wonderful. Of course we can do it. Right. So we're not finished with the Q&A. We're just taking a little pause because we have a short evaluation survey. So please fill it out. This is going to help us for upcoming topics and format. So if you just want to take a few minutes to do that, that would be great. Jeremy, is there anything you needed to add?
Well, actually, I was going to quickly jump in and so selfishly ask a question.
Oh.
So I was interested because Stephanie had said something that I thought of, that usually when you do some networking of this kind, you're going to use LinkedIn, not necessarily Facebook, because it's a little more personal and it's not necessarily the same purpose. We're in a weird time, 2020, where Facebook has almost become a job sharing, product sharing, business entity sharing kind of thing, rather than a social media place to post funny cat videos, which it still is too. So I guess it's really interesting to see that go in that way. And what I've seen a lot of people do is create two Facebooks for themselves, one for their professional one, and then one that's very much more private. Maybe it's got a different name, all that other stuff that's just for them and their friends. What do you, and this is a question for all three of you really, what do you think about that kind of thing? And when you see that, that someone has done that, does that raise a red flag that they're obviously showing two different people on Facebook? Or do you just say, well, at least they're being careful? And that's it. That's my question.
I don't know if it's really a red flag for me. I just find typically, some people have one profile and you'll find some people with 5 profiles. I don't know that they're trying to hide anything particularly. Sometimes, especially people that are into gaming, will create extra accounts for themselves, I think, to get different rewards and things like that. So if somebody had 2 profiles, wouldn't really be a concern, I don't think, for me as an employer.
Anyone else had a different experience or want to add to that? Jill?
I would be a tiny bit hesitant, and here's why. I would just be nosy, obviously, of what they're posting on there. I would think of, maybe this is just my experience working in social media, but a lot of the Gen Z audience has a friends-only Instagram account. And they don't have a friends-only Instagram account because they're not posting their volunteer experience. They have a friends-only account because they don't want you to see what's on there. So I would be nervous if I did go ahead and hire you. Are you then going to post something on your private account that will come back? We're going to see a screenshot. It's going to come back to look bad on the company. So I guess there's no always yes, always no, but it would cause me maybe a little pause.
Hey, that's interesting. That's a tricky one. Steph, did you want to add anything?
No, I was just actually going to mention that a lot of young people have double Instagram accounts now too. So I mimic Jill's.
Yeah, and I wonder if that's such a new trend. I wonder how that's going to shape how we think about having two accounts. The longer it's around and the more we see on it. That's an interesting one. I think it was Jill who said there's no handbook on social media and how we do this. Okay, so let's take a look at some more questions. Here's one. Shay, one of our connectees, wrote in and she said, I used to be very vocal about political issues in high school. I'm 25 now. How far back do employers go to check out your social profiles? I think it's a great question.
It is a great question. I'll speak as an employer. We really look at the time frame. I mean, a lot of times, people are 19 years old, and if we all think about ourselves when we were 19 and the person that we are now, a lot has happened between those 2 dates. So, we may go back and look at somebody's social media profile, but you got to kind of take the time frame into consideration as well. To somebody, they're 19 and they have a lot of radical and maybe negative things posted. What's the trend now, which I guess is more important in the here and now. Have they grown from that spot if they're typically somebody that posted a lot of negative or controversial things? Who are they now?
Right. Steph, did you want to tag in?
Yeah, I was just going to say, I've gone pretty far back.
Deep. Mm-hmm.
Like all the way till they started their social media. But like Tanya said, you just got to take into, thoughts that people, and like Jill said, people are different than they were 10 years ago, 5 years ago, a couple of years ago. So just being mindful of that, I think it's a good thing.
Sounds sensible. Jill, did you want to add anything?
Just the fact, I think that it's okay to be, loud about political issues as long as you're doing it in a respectful way. I mean, I've I had Monday and Tuesday off, I spent the entire 2 days on Twitter retweeting every Black Lives Matter tweet, whether it was angry or positive. And I don't apologize for it. And I don't think that anyone at CBU is going to look at me any differently for supporting a movement that I believe in. So I think as long as you're still being true to yourself, and then if you are working and reflecting a brand, you have to obviously keep their values in mind as well. But I don't think that means you can't have an opinion about important things like that.
Yeah, I think that's a great reminder. Thank you. That you are entitled to you can have opinions that you stand behind, as long as you really stand behind them. And I like what I'm hearing from Tanya and Steph is that they both will dig, but they'll also think of the context. Oh, if this person was like this 10 years ago, they're probably different now. So I would say I'm hearing that in a lot of industries, that's what you can expect. If you're in a very conservative industry, I think you might want to be, you might want to reflect that. But a lot of us will probably be fine. Let's see, I think we have some other questions. This is a fun one. Okay, so just got hired at a new company. Congratulations. I want to get to know the people I work with before I get started. Would it be creepy to stalk them on social media just to know how the work environment might be? So, and who wants to start first? I know Steph stalked us all before we started at the partnership.
I have done that.
Yeah.
No, I don't think it's creepy. I mean, it might be a little creepy. I do it myself. But just as long as you're not like adding them as a friend until you get to know them or until you actually meet them, or like liking their posts, that might be a little weird. They might get a little like, but yeah, I don't think it's super creepy. I mean, everybody does it.
I think what I'm hearing, Steph, is it's no one's creeped out unless they know about it. So if you do it and then you add them and then you like their post, or you say, hey, saw your neighbor's dog is sick, sorry about that, and you haven't met them, then that's the first time you meet them. That's uncomfortable. Yeah. I'm jumping in now because that's also true for online networking. Let's say you're meeting someone, so you research them, you look over their LinkedIn profile. Oh, it's so cool that they work at Marine Atlantic. If you just say, well, when you worked at Marine Atlantic 10 years ago, that's creepy.
Yeah.
So you have to give your content. You might give context. When I did my research for this meeting, but
yeah.
So that makes a lot of sense.
And maybe it's just the industry I'm in where it's marketing. Maybe that's just my headspace, but I don't know. Anyway.
That's right. But lots of teams have a marketer, and the marketer's probably creeping you.
Yeah.
Jill, Tanya, did you want to add something?
I think it would be maybe a little creepy if you met somebody and they knew everything about you. I think the best rule of thumb would be to maybe wait until you actually start the position and at least have a little bit of back and forth with somebody before you start commenting on their whole life and adding them on social media and everything.
Yeah, that's right. That's just good common sense. Yeah, thank you. Jill, did you want to add anything?
Sure, yeah. So we spent the last hour saying we were creeping you. So if you creep us, you're justified. And yeah. I would say that someone like me, I post a lot of CBU stuff, and I would want someone who was applying to CBU to look at that and say, oh my God, they look like they're having so much fun. That's a place I want to work. And that's part of my personal brand, is to make CBU look fun, because it is. So I think to an extent, it's a good idea. Get a handle on what it's like. And then you can also learn from what they are posting and aren't posting. So the silence is also teaching you something.
Oh, that's right. That's great. So check out people's social media to see what the work culture is around social media. That's great.
Definitely creeped Jill before I started at CBU. I just want to let everyone know.
Well, and at this point, I don't think it's creeping Jill. Like, I looked up Jill's Twitter because I thought that's her job. I'm going to have to introduce her. And
it's there to creep.
Awesome. So we have another question from Michael. Let's see. Oh, this is good. Even if someone is fairly competent in the area of marketing, communications, and social media, can being a naturally minimalistic being naturally minimalistic along the lines of posting online hurt someone's chances of obtaining a job offer? He knows it's sort of already answered, but so yeah, that makes sense. Some people, it's their field, but they still don't want to do it a bunch. Does that look strange if your field is communications? Whoever wants to step on it first. Steph. Okay.
If this is the Michael I know, then hey, Michael. But I'm actually one of those people who don't post a lot as a marketer. I don't think it'll really hurt your chances of being hired. You know, if you post here and there, I think it's okay. You know, like let yourself, I guess, speak for your skills and expertise in an interview or on your resume or on your, at least on your profiles. But yeah, I mean, I don't post a lot.
But what you post is good.
Yeah,
right?
Sure.
Yeah. Okay. Did Tanya, Jill, anyone?
I would just say, so Michael's my co-op student, and I know from creeping him that it's okay that he doesn't post a lot. If what you're posting now and then is relevant, like I'm sure Steph doesn't post a lot, but she probably promoted this webinar. So you know that she's promoting something that's, you know, relevant. And I think that if you're going to get considered for an interview, the creep is not going to stop you unless there's something really bad. So you're still going to get your opportunity to defend yourself, your competence in marketing, communications, whatever it may be. So it's not the be all end all.
Awesome. Thank you. Tanya, did you want to add anything?
I think during the interview process would be a time when you could direct the interviewer to projects and work that you've done. It doesn't necessarily have to be here, there, and everywhere all over the internet in their face. I think, you know, you have the interview to kind of guide them if there's something specific that you want them to see.
Perfect. That makes so much sense. I have if we have time, I would love to ask another question. I was really excited when Jill said, you know, you're transitioning from being a student to being in the workforce or being in a new part of the workforce. You're building your brand. So present who you want to be. So I was wondering if each of you could say a little bit about some tips on how you decide what your brand is, how you decide what that brand is, and how you develop that. Maybe since it was out of yours, if we could start with you, Jill, maybe 3 tips on developing your brand.
Okay. I would say you're going to want to sit down and think of maybe the 3 most important things to you. So like I mentioned, mine is probably creativity, being a realist, which sometimes reads as maybe a bit of a pessimist, and standing up for what you believe in. So those are just 3 things that I picked that are important to me. So if yours is volunteerism, maybe you're super family oriented, maybe you work with kids, so you want to show your value is, you know, your content is safe for kids. So I think, yeah, you just sit down with yourself, pick out the 3 or 4 most things. If you want inspiration, there's lots of blogs online. I've read one for school about developing your own mission statement as a person. So a lot of times, well, all the time actually, organizations have a mission statement, but we often don't write one for ourselves. So kind of going through that process can help you determine what your brand is, what you do say, what you don't say. So that's what I would do.
Super helpful. Tanya, did you have any pointers for developing a brand?
That's kind of a tough one, I find. I think it kind of depends on the audience that you're marketing to. You know, myself, for example, if I have a little side business that I'm promoting, I would be kind of, you know, building and sharing things that would appeal to the type of customer that I'm looking for, I guess. So I find that to be kind of a little bit of a hard question to answer.
Oh, did you too? Yeah, no, that's why I asked it. Yeah. So thank you. Steph, did you want to, I think this will be our final kind of moment on the panel. So if you could give your pointers. Yeah.
So yeah, like Jill, I would just say, like, what are you passionate about? So find that, you know, read a ton of that stuff, follow any companies or brands or whatever online that might, you know, speak to your passion. If you follow any brands or companies that you know, are in the same industry, or just read a ton of blogs. So like marketing, for example, like, you know, I always read the HubSpot blog. I always read Hootsuite blogs. I always read Buffer blogs, like that type of stuff.
Yeah.
And then you can repost that and, you know, show, hey, you just read this blog. What do you think? And, you know, that type of thing. Yeah, I guess.
Awesome.
But
Awesome. So that's great. So maybe develop a mission statement, or think of 3 things that you're passionate about and stand for, and then read up on those so you have content to post, and then so you're always learning about them. That's wonderful. So my apologies, guys. I let it go long with my own question. So thank you so much. Thank you everyone for joining us. Thank you to our speakers, Stephanie McLean, Jill Ellsworth, and Tanya Wilneff. You've been wonderful. As I mentioned at the beginning, we're going to work to answer any outstanding questions, and we are going to load this presentation up onto our website. So if you really like, oh, that was wonderful, what did she say, you can check it out, or your friends who missed can check it out. So we have some sessions coming up in the future. We have, let me make sure I have the dates properly. So we have 2 more Adulting 101 sessions. We're gonna have It's a Balancing Act, Wellness for the Mind and Body on June 11th, and Show Me the Money, Finances, it's a big one, on June 18th. Oh, and then we have Refresh My Resume, which is resume building, on June 25th. So lots to look forward to. That's it. And a big thank you, of course, to CBU alumni. Rochelle had to pop out to another meeting because we went long, but thank you so much to them. So just keep looking out for stuff on our website and on social media for the upcoming webinars. Jeremy, anything you wanted to add?
No, I think you've covered it all. Thanks a lot for joining us, everyone. And we'll be looking at all of you great folks to share everything on social media as we roll this out further.
Yeah, awesome. Yes, you'll all be so good at sharing these the future webinars now, all of the attendees. Thank you so much, guys.
Thanks a lot.
Thanks.
Thanks.
thanks.